So we are recording now. Okay, so just want to give you a quick recap. So our main goal today, hopefully we will be able to finish that. Let's see. Um, the goal is to prove the Tut-Burge theorem, right? And what the theorem says is that every graph has a barrier. So intuitively, the way you want to think about it is a barrier is it's a certificate that a graph does not have a matching bigger than a certain size, right? So it tells you what is the maximum size of a matching. The formal definition of a barrier, just to remind you from yesterday, is a set of vertices is a barrier if it satisfies this equation. Okay, this is a bit of a long equation. I think now that I think more, I feel that this alternative definition might be easier to grasp. So rather than thinking of the size of a maximum matching, it tells you the number of unmatched vertices in any maximum matching of the graph, right? And those two are related by this equation. So if you use this equation, then you see that these two are equivalent. Okay, so it's basically a set is a barrier. If you know that the number of unmatched vertices is, let's say, 5, then you want the number of odd components to be 5 more than the set of vertices you deleted, than the size of the set of the vertices you deleted. Okay, so the number of unmatched vertices satisfies this second equation here. Okay, so just to give you a quick example, in this graph, the number of unmatched vertices in any maximum matching is equal to 1, right? Because maximum matching here has size 2. So in particular, if you, I think if you delete this vertex, I think this is a barrier, because when you delete the vertex u, the what you get in the remaining graph is 2 odd components and 1 even component, right? And so the number of odd components minus the cardinality of the set B, which is the vertex u, is exactly 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1, right? Right, so that is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so here all right. Great. Any questions or concerns regarding the definitions? All right, so we want to prove that every graph has a barrier, and this implies the Tut-Burge formula, which in turn implies Tut's theorem, right? So these are things you can check for yourself. All right, so now let's see if we can proceed to prove this theorem. All right, so I'll first give you a proof sketch, and then we will fill out the details. So the proof is by proof of Tut-Burge theorem, which is 16.11. So we're going to prove by induction on the number of vertices of the graph. The specific proof we are covering is due to Galai. Proof due to Galai. All right. So supposing, well, there's going to be a base case. We need to figure this out. And what we are going to do in the induction step is we are going to take a certain vertex. Now, by induction hypothesis, the graph after deleting this vertex has a barrier, say B. And we will argue this won't work always. We will discuss when it works and when it does not. We want to argue now that in the graph G, the set B union the vertex V is a barrier. Okay, so this is at a high level how the proof goes. There are details we need to figure out. Right, we will show. Okay. Well, the problem is this strategy does not work for any arbitrary vertex. Okay, so let's go back to our example. Let me call this vertex V, or maybe, sure, let me call it V. Okay, so I have the graph G. I look at my graph G minus V. Now in this graph, notice that there is a perfect matching, right? And U is equal to 0. In any maximum matching, the number of unmatched vertices is 0. So what is a barrier? A barrier in this case would be any set for which these two quantities are equal, right? The number of odd components is the same as the number of vertices you deleted. So for example, the empty set, I believe, satisfies this. If I delete no vertices and I get one even component, and right, so the B equal to empty is a barrier, right? And well, let's check whether in the original graph, the barrier along with the vertex we deleted, is that a barrier in the original graph? So this is in G minus V. So let's check in G if B union V is a barrier. Yes or no? Anyone? So B union V in this case is just empty union V, right? So that is just, is this a barrier? Well, it's not, because, well, what do you want for this graph? The number of unmatched vertices in any maximum matching is equal to 1, right? Because the size of a maximum matching is exactly 2 edges, and you've got 5 vertices, so one vertex remains unmatched. And in this case, if you check this quantity, the number of odd components after deleting the vertex V minus the cardinality of the set V, well, the number of odd components is 0 because you have a graph with 4 vertices which is connected. So you've got 0 odd components and you have deleted one vertex, right? So that is not equal to the cardinality of U, right? So the strategy we have doesn't work because this set B union V is not a barrier in the resulting graph, right? Turns out, while it does not work for an arbitrary vertex, it does work for special vertices. Okay, and that brings us to the definition of an essential vertex in a graph. A vertex V is essential, maybe in a graph G, if this vertex is covered by every maximum matching. If V is covered or saturated, as you like, otherwise it is inessential. So let's take our example again, and let's see what vertices are covered by every maximum matching. So in our example, let me just make two drawings of it. Well, notice that the only two maximum matchings in this graph are either you pick this edge and you pick this edge, or you pick the other symmetric edge and this edge. That's the only way you can get a matching of size 2, which is the maximum matching, right, in this graph. So what are the essential and inessential vertices? Can someone tell me? So what are the
W
vertices?
and
Yeah, go
X.
ahead. Yes, Shani.
Essential vertices W and X.
W and X, and one more, right? U,
Yes.
right? And the other two, V1 and V2, are inessential vertices, because for each of them there is a maximum matching that does not cover that vertex, right? Okay, thanks. Good. So it turns out that if you choose an essential vertex, then the strategy we have outlined works out. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to choose an essential vertex. Let V be an essential vertex. Right? So the question, of course, arises, why should such a vertex exist? And that brings us to our base case, when the graph does not have any essential vertices. So if the graph has no essential vertices, we need to deal with that separately. And when there is an essential vertex, then it turns out that you can make a barrier from the smaller graph. You can turn a barrier from the smaller graph into a barrier for the bigger graph by just including the vertex you deleted. Okay. So let's prove that simple fact. Um, so that brings us to lemma 16.9. So let's say G is our graph. V is an essential vertex. And B is a barrier of G minus V. Okay. And our goal is to prove that B union the vertex V is a barrier of G. Okay. So this turns out to be not that difficult to prove, actually. All right. So what does it mean for the set B to be a barrier? since B is a barrier of G minus V, well, when I wrote down the proof, I followed the more complicated equation, right? So I'll just stick to that. So that means that the size of a maximum matching in G minus V is exactly equal to the cardinality of the following. So we are looking at the graph G minus V minus the number of odd components in G minus V minus B plus the cardinality of the set B, right? This is exactly what it means for the set to be a barrier in the graph G minus V. Okay. Now, quick observation. If you delete an essential vertex from a graph, because that vertex is covered in any maximum matching, in the new graph, the size of the maximum matching has to be smaller. And it can be smaller only by 1. You just lose 1 edge at max. So observe that V is essential if and only if when you delete the vertex, the size of the maximum matching goes down by 1. Right? You can check on this example. Whenever you delete one of the vertices U, W, and X, the maximum matching will become 1 lesser. Right? It will be 1. And well, inessential just means that the size of the maximum matching is the same as before, right? Because there is some matching, maximum matching, which does not cover that vertex. So that matching exists even when you delete that vertex. Okay. So that means that I can write, since V is essential in G, I can write the size of the maximum matching in G minus 1, right? And I want to transfer to the graph G, right? So I want to write down everything in terms of G. So let me put the number of vertices in G minus 1 minus the number of odd components in the graph G minus B union V. Notice that this is the same as this. And I want to consider the set B union V. So let me include this. And then I need to subtract 1. Okay. All right. And well, now I have a minus 1 here, and I have a minus 1 minus 2 multiplied by a half. So I can remove those two minus 1s, right? And what I get is the following equation. Right? And what this means is that the set B union V is a barrier in G. Okay, not particularly enlightening, just a bunch of equations being modified, but it works out. Okay, so when you have an essential vertex, then all of this just works out, and you can just include that vertex and you will get a barrier in the original graph. Is everybody fine with this proof? Any questions or concerns? Okay, great. So if my graph has an essential vertex, then I delete it. The resulting graph by induction hypothesis has a barrier. And well, we have already argued this. This is by lemma 16.9. Okay, so the only thing that now remains is to deal with the base case. Okay, so it remains to prove Tutberge theorem for graphs that have no essential vertices. Okay, so what are these graphs? What are the graphs in which every vertex is inessential? Let's see if we can think of some examples. Can you think of some graphs in which every vertex is inessential? So what does that mean? You want that for each vertex V, the graph G has a maximum matching that misses the vertex V, right? So it does not cover the vertex V. All right, so let's see. Can you think of some graph where this is true? Think of the standard, the usual odd cycles. Thank you. Right. So odd cycles are a classic example. Right. So you take any odd cycle and observe that for every single vertex, there is a maximum matching that misses that vertex. Right. All right. So it turns out that while odd cycles are definitely an important class, the answer is a bit more general. Notice that odd cycles have the following property, following stronger property, if you may. For every single vertex, there is a perfect matching after deleting that vertex. Odd cycles are what we will call hypomatchable. What this means is that G minus V has a perfect matching for each vertex V of the graph. But there are other graphs that are hypomatchable. For example, well, you can add an edge to an odd cycle, and you will still have the same property. You delete any vertex, the remaining graph has a perfect matching. And you can see that odd cycle plus one edge also has the property that every vertex is inessential. Okay? So it turns out that these are actually the same classes. Hypomatchable graphs are essentially the same class of graphs in which every vertex is an essential. Also, why are we calling them hypomatchable? Just for the sake of completeness, we are going to say that a graph G is matchable if it has a perfect matching. Okay. I haven't been using this term so far, but let's just, I think it makes more sense once you define a matchable graph and then you define hypomatchable graphs in this way. Okay. Good. So it turns out that in the case of connected graphs, these are exactly the same classes. So let me just put that down. Right. So we will prove the following. Lemma 16.10, which says that if you have a connected graph with no essential vertices, then the graph G is a hypomatchable graph. Okay, so this is good because we wanted to prove the base case, which is that we need to deal with graphs that have no essential vertices. Okay, and this lemma tells us that these graphs are exactly the hypomatchable graphs. So if we can show that the hypomatchable graphs have a barrier, then we would basically be done, right? We still need to deal with the disconnected graphs, but if you just cared for connected graphs, then all you need to show is that every hypomatchable graph has a barrier. Okay, so let's prove the following. In fact, let me ask you, what is a barrier in an odd cycle? Remember, in any maximum matching, you will have exactly one unmatched vertex. So you want a set of vertices so that the number of odd components is exactly one more than the number of vertices you deleted. Empty set. Exactly. Thanks, Arnav. Right. So the empty set is a barrier. Right. You delete no vertices. You're left with a graph with an odd number of vertices. Right. Which is one more than the number of vertices you deleted. Right. So, in fact, what you can prove quite easily is that the empty set is a barrier of every hypomatchable graph. In fact, it turns out that these are the only barriers in hypomatchable graphs. We won't need that. We just care to show the existence of a barrier. Right. So can we prove this quickly? Let's see. Notice that if G is your hypomatchable graph, then, well, what it means is that the size of a maximum matching is you will leave exactly one unmatched vertex, right? So you will have the number of vertices minus 1 over 2, right? And what do you get in the case of the empty set? The number of odd components this is exactly 1, right? So this is exactly equal to the number of vertices minus the number of odd components plus the cardinality of this over 2, right? Assuming I didn't make any mistakes, that is a correct proof. Okay, so this implies that empty is a barrier. Good. So in any hypermatchable graph, you have the empty set as a barrier. The only problem now is that these are the connected graphs with no essential vertices. What about the graphs that are not connected? Well, I will leave that as an exercise for you. Show that the empty set is a barrier of any graph without essential vertices. So if it is connected, then we are done, because then it's a hypermatchable graph. So you just need to deal with the graphs that are not connected. And essentially what happens is that the graph is, a graph has no essential vertices if and only if each component has no essential vertices. So each component will be hypermatchable. And now you need to show that if each component is hypermatchable, then once again, the empty set is a barrier of the graph. It's quite easy. Okay. So show that G has no essential vertices if and only if each component of G has no essential vertices. Okay, and then you can argue easily that the empty set is a barrier of the graph G. Okay, so that's it. So the only thing that we now need to show is that connected graphs with no essential vertices are indeed hypermatchable, because we have already shown that in the case of hypermatchable graphs, the empty set is a barrier, right? And that settles the base case of our proof. So if G has no essential vertices, then empty set is a barrier of G. Right? So it remains to prove lemma 16.10. Good. Any questions or concerns at this point? Right. So what are we trying to show now? We are going to take a connected graph with no essential vertices, and our goal is to show that this graph is hypermatchable, right? So for every single vertex, there is a perfect matching when you delete that vertex. So let's see if we can finish this today. Okay, so G is a connected graph with no essential vertices. Right. All right. So how are we going to prove this? In some sense, this is the crux of the proof. This is the part. The most of the other things were actually quite straightforward. This is the part where we need some slightly non-trivial thinking, but not too much. All right. So what we will show is that if you take any two vertices in the graph and a maximum matching, then that matching will cover at least one of those two vertices. Let's see why this is enough. We will show that if x and y are any two distinct vertices in the graph G, and M is a maximum matching of G, then M saturates at least one of X and Y. Okay, why is this enough? So let's say I take my graph G. First of all, notice that G does not have a perfect matching, because if it has a perfect matching, then every vertex is essential. You delete any vertex, the size of the maximum matching will go down, right? So already at this point, note that G has no perfect matching. This is clear. So you take any maximum matching in the graph. Some vertex will be unmatched because the graph does not have a perfect matching, right? So if you think of this as your vertex X, then what this statement is saying is that all other vertices are actually matched by the matching M, right? Because for every other vertex, the matching has to saturate that other vertex because X is not saturated, right? So if M is any maximum matching, and X is M unsaturated, then M saturates all other vertices. Once we prove this claim, right? So we still need to prove this claim in the box. Okay, so it saturates all other vertices, which implies that G minus X has a perfect matching. In particular, this implies that the size of the maximum matching is exactly the number of vertices minus 1 divided by 2. But if this is the size of the maximum matching and every vertex is not essential, that means that for every single vertex, there is a perfect matching after deleting that vertex, right? So then it follows from now, by hypothesis, G minus Z has a perfect matching for each vertex Z of the graph, right? And that is exactly what it means for the graph to be hypomatchable. Okay, so proving this claim will settle everything. That is what I wanted to convince you. Okay, so it just remains to prove that for any two vertices of the graph, there is a maximum matching, and for any maximum matching of the graph, it will saturate at least one of those two vertices, right? Once we show this, then we are done. The graph is hypomatchable by the arguments we just went through. Okay, so let's see if we have any more time remaining. It's 12:47. Yeah, I mean, I could try to do it, but I think we will just be rushing. So why don't we just leave this for Thursday? Okay, so once we show this, the proof will be done. We will have proved the Tut-Burge theorem, the Tut-Burge formula, Tut's theorem, everything. Okay, so maybe I'll just leave this for Thursday. If you want, you can try it in the meanwhile on your own. Okay, good. So any questions or concerns? So my plan for the rest of this course is that, well, um, we are close to finishing matchings once we prove this lemma as far as the text is concerned. But we still have another, I don't know, 5 lectures to go. So I'm thinking of covering more matchings. I mean, I do matchings for a living. So I'm thinking of covering some additional material, some of which might be tested on the assignment. But yeah, I think that might be a good use of our time. I'll just cover some cool things about matchings. And at some point, I was thinking of going back to colorings, but I just feel that it might be better to stick to matchings and just go deeper in matchings rather than going back to colorings and stuff. Okay. So that's the plan for the rest of the lectures. We'll keep doing matchings until we have run out of time. And yeah, I did not post the assignment yet. I will definitely post it today. Okay. And I will give you time at least till 15th of May. Are there any questions or concerns? Anything that we discussed today that wasn't entirely clear, you would like me to go over it again? No, there are 2 assignments left, but for both of them, I'm planning to give you the same deadline, 15th May or something. Thanks. Good. So yeah, I'm here. I'm here for another 4 5 minutes. If there are any questions or concerns, maybe I'll stop recording now.